Did you know that Plo Koon represents the Jedi version of Gandalf from Lord of the Rings? Or what about the real-world reference used behind the Battledroid war trophies collected by Chopper? Well, these are just a couple of the craziest Clone Wars Season 1 facts I will cover today. And I'll even reveal the favorite Star Wars character of showrunner Dave Filoni, just for fun by the end of this video, if you don't know already. Our first fact is that Chopper taking Battledroid fingers is a reference to a disturbing aspect of American history, and for those of you who get grossed out easily, you might want to click off. Because during World War II and the Vietnam War, there are multiple reported cases of American soldiers taking the ears of their enemies during combat. One horrifying example of these war trophies is the US Representative Francis E. Walter, who sent President Franklin Roosevelt a quote-unquote gift, which was a letter opener made from a Japanese soldier's arm. Roosevelt then sent it back for proper burial. Keep in mind that war trophies have existed as a concept in war since the Roman Empire, so this is by no means a strictly American affair. And while there are many other references to history that we will be looking at later, like the Ark of the Covenant on Ryloth, our next fact is that this same episode, Hidden Enemy, is a prequel to the Clone Wars movie, which is a prequel to the prequel trilogy, which are prequels to the original trilogy, and the Hidden Enemy has a prequel to it in Season 2 as well. Also, credit to the YouTube channel Clone Wars Chronicles, who I'm gathering many of these facts from. But next is the Kwazel Maw, and this creature is actually taken from the Empire Strikes Back concept art created by Ralph McQuarrie for the swamp planet of Dagobah, and you really can tell this is from the classic art, as this is one of the most unique and memorable creatures in the first 2 seasons of the Clone Wars. Well, after the Zillo Beast, that is. Next up, Jabo Hood from the Mystery of a Thousand Moons episode is supposed to represent Anakin if he never left Tatooine. This is pretty obvious by his willingness to help others and the whole army of battle droids he repurposed all by himself. But there's more. This is the only time in Star Wars we get to see the Angels of Iago that Anakin mistakes Padme for in The Phantom Menace.
Are you an angel? They live on the moons of Iago, I think.
It looks like Anakin was a master of the Riz before he was a master of the Force.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
But next is the importance of Nahdar Vebb. In the episode Lair of Grievous, Nahdar Vebb represents the Jedi and their growing shift toward power and politics. This is why he falls in the episode. Kit Fisto, on the other hand, actually survives a duel with Grievous, nearly beating him because of his understanding of the Jedi principles. Also, fun fact, Nahdar only has one chin barbel, whereas someone like Akbar has multiple. This is to show the change in their age throughout the movie. And comment down below if you think Lair of Grievous is the best episode from this season. If not, then let me know it is. For those of you who said the episode Trespass, you might like this next fact because on the ice planet of Orto, Plutonia, it is very possible that there were layers to this planet similar to Coruscant. Allow me to explain. When asked about how the Talls got their firewood and resources like their spears as well, Dave Filoni explained that there could have been a layer of forest and foliage under the ice which allowed them to survive. This Ralph McQuarrie concept art of Hoth explored a similar concept when developing that world for episode 5. But there's more. Even the designs of the clone troopers themselves in this episode are inspired from the designs of Ralph McQuarrie for snowtroopers on Hoth. It's really interesting how many of his unused designs have been realized in projects decades down the road. While not from Ralph McQuarrie, one concept from the prequels that was reused here were the vicious Gutkurr, which look like giant flesh-eating fleas. We see these on Ryloth during the arrival of the 212th Legion under General Kenobi.
General Kenobi!
Even though we have already talked about this episode 2 times, Hidden Enemy has an interesting parallel to Revenge of the Sith. While many fans only think of Order 66 as the only time the clones betrayed the Jedi, this is far from the truth. Not only Hidden Enemy, but also the entire Umbara arc with Pong Krell, as well as the Fives arc in Season 6, each explore different times the Jedi and clones were at odds with each other, which introduces the conflict that will be brought into full realization in Revenge of the Sith. But an interesting parallel to the Phantom Menace also occurs in this season. That is Duel of the Fates, which takes place in this Naboo hangar next to the Plasma Refinery complex. Funny enough, in the episode Blue Shadow Virus, we find Anakin landing in this same hangar bay he was stuck in as a 9-year-old boy years prior. Although, let's be honest, the Duel of the Fates is garbage compared to any time this guy is on screen.
Yes.
However, during the 21st episode of this season, Liberty on Ryloth, we can see the Ark of the Covenant loaded onto one of Wat Tambor's transports. This is crazy enough one of the many Indiana Jones references throughout the Star Wars animation projects. The Crystal Skull was shown as a Trandoshan trophy in Season 3, and the rope bridge scene from Temple of Doom was recreated in the Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 10. So now that we are halfway through the list, who is Dave Filoni's favorite character? Well, it is no other than the Kel Dor Jedi Plo Koon, and James Arnold Taylor, who voices Obi-Wan, actually voiced the character of Plo Koon as well, which I thought was pretty interesting. Dave Filoni instructed him, saying that Plo Koon should sound like Gandalf if he was a Jedi, and I'd say James Arnold Taylor pulled it off. But you really think we won't include 2 different Indiana Jones references as spots on this video? Then think again, because Senator Karras uses the Staff of Ra here, which unfortunately isn't enough to stop his death at the hands of Darth Jar Jar. And the only Clone Wars character more powerful than Darth Jar Jar was Wat Tambor, who actually has no feet in this show. And I don't mean literally, because Skakoans are bipedal species, meaning they walk on 2 legs, but for the original ILM model of Wat in Attack of the Clones, and for his animated appearance in the Clone Wars, he simply had no legs, which made it look like he was rolling around. According to Wikipedia, the Skakoans used pressure suits to travel off-world because of the heavy atmosphere and chemical-based world of Skako where they come from. This means some kind of repulsor might have been used under their feet to allow them to move around in dangerous environments without exposing their legs. And while many fans might not know this, the AT-RT was meant to represent velociraptors in the show. This is because of the incredible speed presented in these walkers, which allowed clone troopers to quickly gain the advantage on droid forces by breaching their lines with ease. But what was the idea behind the Hyena Bombers newly introduced in this series? Well, if you think about Vulture droids as the separatist equivalent to the Imperial TIE fighters, with Tri-droids representing the TIE interceptors, then that can only make the Hyena Bombers, that's right, the CIS equivalent of the TIE Bombers. And before we continue, let me know in the comments which droid fighter or capital ship from the Separatists is your favorite. But our next fact is so crazy, it made Anakin like sand, it made Jar Jar a normal senator rather than a Sith Lord, and it even made Pong Krell an activist for clone rights. I'm talking about the chairs in the episode Shadow of Malevolence.
No, I don't even know what I'm doing here. We're wasting our time.
No, hear me out. These chairs are interesting because, like the chairs seen on the Death Star conference room in A New Hope, they are literally just regular office chairs with nothing remotely alien about them. Hey, you already know you have to subscribe to me after that one. And while the chair fact is pretty hard to top, so is the iconic sound of Darth Vader's breathing, which we hear coming from Anakin when he was injured in episode 13, Jedi Crash. And when watching this show as a kid, I thought I was the only one who knew about this detail, but now all of you guys and girls know about it as well. But what if I told you, when it comes to named on-screen character deaths, Season 1 of the Clone Wars had the most of any season with 41 deaths in total. I discovered this on my video where I looked at how many deaths are in each Clone Wars season, so if you find that topic interesting, then you can watch the full video once you are done with this one. But real quick, here's the Christian advice of this video, and fun fact, James Arnold Taylor, who voiced Obi-Wan Kenobi, Plo Koon, and even Rako Hardeen, who's Obi-Wan's alternate identity as a bounty hunter, actually is a devout Christian himself. He has a very inspiring story in this interview with the 700 Club Interactive, which I will leave as a link in the description. But if you want to get back to the main video, then you can skip to this time right here. Now, today I'm actually going to be looking at Mark 1:40 through 41, which says, "A leper came to him," this is talking about Jesus, "begging him and kneeling, he said to him, 'If you choose, you can make me clean.'" Moved with pity, Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him and said to him, I do choose, be made clean. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Now, what I find extremely moving about this right here is that if you have any terrible problem you're dealing with spiritually, physically, mentally, mental health, any of these things, and you think, oh, my problems aren't, important enough for God, right? You can and always should bring up this issue to God, to Jesus. He wants to. He's just waiting for you to ask him to bring your problems before him. It would absolutely please him for you to do that because it is really a showing of your faith to God and to Jesus. So just keep that in mind. If you ever have a problem where you're like, I don't know if, I should really even talk about this, just bring it up with the Lord and he will do it for you. He'll truly help you out. But yeah, getting back to the video, this is just a quick reminder that you can leave a comment if you have any video suggestions below. But yeah, let's get back to the video. But moving into our top 3, did you know that George Lucas specifically requested that Anakin had some severe injury to prove to the audience that he was not all-powerful and was still human? This would actually make him a more grounded character. Also, in a way, this teases the defeat of Anakin years later on Mustafar, who thought of himself as unstoppable. But one event from the Clone Wars that humbled Anakin real quick was the Battle of Christophsis, where, fun fact, we were at one point supposed to see the Republic use their own reprogrammed Battledroid known as the Beast. This was cut to maintain the clones versus droids idea throughout the show. Personally, this is an idea I would have loved to see later on. But technically the Citadel arc did do this, but I feel like it could have been made even more interesting, perhaps through the use of a reprogrammed tactical droid. And while we looked at Dave Filoni's favorite character in the show earlier, which was his favorite episode of this season? Well, the answer to this is more important than you may think. When creating this season of the show, Dave always liked the idea of a mission where the clones and the Jedi have to save a helpless child to show off the heroic nature of them. It is for this reason that episode 20, Innocence of Ryloth, is his favorite in the first season, where we get to see Obi-Wan Kenobi, Commander Cody, Waxer, and Boyle help the child Numa, who is lost in the invaded town. I think this has to be the most important fact of the video, because with how much focus there is on Anakin's downfall and mistreatment by the Jedi Council in the prequel trilogy, it's nice to see the heroic, righteous side of the Jedi as well as clones that, in my opinion, they are really supposed to represent. However, this is just one of 7 seasons of the show, all of which contain their own mind-blowing facts. If you want to see the 20 craziest facts from the entire Clone Wars show, starting with how General Grievous and Anakin Skywalker never meet, then click the video on screen right now.